Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to our latest update for the United States. So we're going to be having a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days for America, and we'll be able to extend out beyond that to day 14 with the GFS extended range. That takes us to the middle of the month, of course, and we'll have a look at FSB2 at the end of the video. That would take us pretty much to the end of July, really. So we'll see what CFS is forecasting for America for the next 4 weeks. I'll get on that for you very shortly. Just say that if you're enjoying the forecast that we're producing for the United States on the channel, then please can you like the video, subscribe to the channel as well, and let us know in the comments what you think. And these are YouTube exclusives, so we're not embedding these to GavsWeatherVids.com at the moment. We're just seeing how we go with these updates. So yes, please let us know in the comments what you think. Share the video where you can, and subscribe and all of that good stuff. It would be absolutely great if you do that. Thank you so much, everybody. Right then, so we're going to start off in the tropical Atlantic. So latest from the National Hurricane Center is that tropical cyclone activity is not expected during the next 48 hours. We are going through a quieter phase at the moment in the tropical Atlantic, and we have been doing so for the last couple of weeks. One of the reasons for that is that we've been bringing a lot of dust out of Saharan Africa across the tropical Atlantic in terms of the upper levels of the atmosphere. When we bring that dust out of Saharan Africa into the top levels of the atmosphere, it does have an inhibiting effect on the development of thunderstorms in the tropical Atlantic. Of course, thunderstorms are the genesis for tropical storms and also for hurricanes. All of these features begin just as clusters of thunderstorms that then develop as they move over the hot waters of the tropical Atlantic. This is from EarthNullSchool.net. This is showing the upper level winds, and you can see that we are beginning to lose the influence from Saharan Africa at the moment. Let's change the colour on the highlight. You can see how these arrows are pushing in that direction off the coast of Africa, off the Atlantic coast of Africa, and then out into the tropical Atlantic. These are the trade winds, so it's typical to be having easterlies coming through the tropical Atlantic. But we aren't sort of drawing the air out of Saharan Africa as much as we was doing like a few days ago. So a few days ago, the origins of the upper level winds were originating from here, drawing lots of dust, sand out of Saharan Africa. Now we sort of have the upper level winds running down this African coast, probably still drawing out some dust and sand from Africa, but not as much. Will take a little while to dissipate the sort of dust that we've got in the upper levels of the atmosphere, but we have been drawing out of Saharan Africa over the past few weeks. It'll take a little while for all of that dust and sand and so on to start to diminish. But if this continues over the next week or two, if we continue to see this reduction in dust being brought out of Saharan Africa, then it could be that in a week or two we might start finding things that begin to develop a little bit more in the tropical Atlantic. So at the moment I think it's still got too much. We actually show you the particulates in the upper levels of the atmosphere of this, so let's look at that. And yeah, you can see that at the moment we've still got quite appreciable levels of dust and so on. We've got these sort of orange and yellow colours. That's sort of the dust and that we brought out of Saharan Africa. So you can see that in the upper levels of the atmosphere we have still got quite a bit of that dust and rubbish, but not as much as we did a few days ago. We've got clearer areas opening up now as we're beginning to lose the influence of that dust from Saharan Africa. Still quite a lot over here, but I think over the next week or two, if this continues, if we continue to see like a reduction in the influence of Saharan Africa on the trade winds and on the upper levels of the atmosphere, I think we'll probably see thunderstorm activity beginning to increase through the tropical Atlantic then, and that might start to push things on. So in around a week, maybe 2 weeks' time, we might start to see some developments. We shall see. We shall see whether that happens. We've certainly got a warm sea surface temperature anomaly in the tropical Atlantic at the moment. So these have a sea surface temperature I was looking from the tropical Atlantic, very latest chart. So this is the coast of Africa just here. That's the Caribbean over there. So yes, this is like Cape Verde Islands just here. It's where a lot of these thunderstorms begin their genesis, really in that sort of area. Anyway, you can see how warm it is in the tropical Atlantic. Widely, the sea surface temperature anomalies are sort of 2 degrees above average. Some areas are like up to 3 degrees above average. You've got these darker orange areas just here. So definitely the ocean is primed to produce a lot of activity in this season. It's just whether the overall synoptic setup is conducive to thunderstorm activity. But we're very early days in this season. We are in a lull in the tropical storm and hurricane season at the moment. But that's not to say we won't see things ramping up a lot as we go through July, through August, through September, through October. Certainly the ocean, in terms of the sea surface temperature, probably looks very primed to have a big season. So I still think we're in for it. Although we have gone through a little bit of a lull, I still think that this tropical storm and hurricane season is going to ramp up a lot as we go through the summer and indeed into the autumn as well. And I'm afraid it probably will be the case that, Caribbean and southern eastern parts of the United States have got to watch out for this season because I think it will really start to ramp up in the next few weeks. But we shall see. Right, so these are the 500 millibar high anomaly flow charts from the Penn State University for the next 7 to 10 days. We've got and I'm going to get this right, so I normally flip these around and have them top to bottom, but now we're looking at this left to right. So we've got the ECMWF on the left of the screen as you're looking at it, and the GFS is on the right of the screen as you're looking at it. So 500 millibars is an area in absolutely high pressure, low pressure, up being moved around by the jet stream running above. Red and orange extrapolates high pressure, blue to low pressure. ECM looking very slack in the 7 to 10 day time frame. There's a trough of low pressure off the Pacific northwestern coast. There's a bit of a ridge through like the western part of the states. The ridge that we've got at the moment across east and northeastern states is still there, but diminishing. Otherwise, very slack gradients. So really, jet streams push northwards across northern part states, and then into the east, beginning to move southwards a little bit, possibly allowing some slightly cooler air into the north states by 7 to 10 day time frame, or the northeast of the states. But overall, that's going to be quite a hot scenario, I think, for most parts of America. It will be drawing up heat from the south. Now, the GFS has more of this ridge still in the northeast, more of this area of high pressure. We've got the trough of low pressure off the Pacific coast of the northwestern part of the states. Otherwise, very similar, very slack gradients. Jet stream is pushing northwards with this. The GFS in particular looks very hot, I think. Could be drawing up a lot of heat from the south. Proper heat wave conditions across many parts of America in the week to 10 day time frame with both mods, but particularly so, I think, with the GFS. These are the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles. Next couple of weeks, we're looking at Wyoming today, up there in the northern part of America, between Colorado and Montana, I think. I could be wrong about that. The red line is a 30-year upper air temperature average for Wyoming, and it's a pretty hot time of year, of course, at this point of the year. Upper air temperatures are hovering around 15 degrees, 850 HPA, but actually the upper air temperature is going to be hotter than that, so proper heat wave conditions over the next sort of 10 days or so, first 10 days of July, looking really hot. Maybe a bit of a reduction there as we go in towards the middle of July, but even then probably still on the hotter than average side. There's quite a bit of scatter by this point though, so there's some really hot outliers up here, taking the temperature up to upper air temperature up to like 25 degrees at 850 HPA with some of those. That is intense heat. Would take temperature well above 100 Fahrenheit, I think. But also got these cool outliers just here. They're much cooler, of course, probably bringing the wind down from Canada. But generally, it looks like going to be a hot scene across most parts of the states and most parts of Wyoming as well over certainly the next 10 days, probably the next 2 weeks. Precipitation-wise, going to be lots of dry weather for Wyoming in the first 10 days of July. Then it starts getting a little bit more unsettled as the upper air temperature begins to reduce a little bit. Looks like we start to break out some really big thunderstorms, potentially sometime around the 10th through to the 12th or 13th of July. But it's a hot scene for Wyoming and for many parts of states in the next week or two. And we see this on our temperature anomaly. So this is the temperature anomaly from the 2nd to the 10th of July. So up in the far northwest, it is cooler, as it often is, near that Pacific northwestern coast, like Washington State, for example, looks a lot cooler up there, as it usually is, with the wind coming in off the Pacific Ocean. However, anywhere further east was looking generally hot, significantly hotter than average through these western Midwest states. So the west of the Midwest looking significantly hotter than average, and moving over to the Midwest as well, up to the Great Lakes, very much hotter than you would expect at this time of year, and that continues as we push in towards the eastern seaboard. Down across the southern parts of the states, actually ever so slightly cooler than average through there, but obviously it will still be very hot in the southern part of America. Precipitation anomaly, it's not dry weather to come actually in the next week. So this will be precipitation anomaly from the 2nd to the 10th of July, significantly drier than average over on the western side of states, as you would expect. States like California looking really, really dry through there, and Arizona, New Mexico, all of those sort of states where you'd expect it to be very dry. Nevada looking significantly drier than average. But this dry weather does extend eastwards through many parts of the Midwest and over towards the northeast as well. So again, up towards the Great Lakes, significantly drier than average through there under that ridge of high pressure. A little bit more unsettled across the southern and southeastern states, some thunderstorms coming through there, and in the extreme northern part of the states as well, up towards the Canadian border, just a little bit more unsettled up there perhaps. But generally it's quite a dry scene across most parts of America in the week ahead. Alright, so this is how the GFS is looking for Friday. So there's a trough of low pressure in the northwest, that's bringing the wind in off the Pacific, and so it's cooler and more showery up there. But otherwise, most parts of the states are under a ridge of high pressure, particularly here through the Midwest, and that's drawing up hot air, of course, from the south. That's how we're going to go through into Saturday, and again, this Independence Day weekend is looking hot across many parts of America. That's Sunday, again, looking hot across most parts of the states. Quite slack gradients, so heavy showers and thunderstorms certainly possible, and indeed quite likely, I would have thought, with hot temperatures into the 90s Fahrenheit quite widely across most parts of America through this weekend. Into the early part of next week, very little change as well. There's the upper air temperature, so it is a hot scene really across many parts of the states in the early part of next week. This is Monday, for example, and we got the 15 to 20 Celsius isotherms covering most parts of America, which will be lifting temperatures into the 80s, if not the 90s Fahrenheit. It's a little bit cooler, as I say, in this northwestern, Pacific northwestern coastal area, but generally otherwise it is a hot scene through most parts of the states. Maybe a little bit cooler in the extreme northeastern states as well. As we go through next week, if anything, we start to see signs of the heat intensifying. Really, again, very slack gradients across many parts of America, so it's a hot and thundery scene, I think, with big showers and thunderstorms in many parts of the states. But the heat is intensifying, particularly out to the west. So yes, heat is really pushing northwards across these western states. But even over on the eastern side, it's quite a hot scene as well, with the upper air temperatures there. But I think out in the west, we see temperatures widely going into the 100s Fahrenheit, and in the eastern parts of the states, probably into the 90s Fahrenheit through there. Heading into towards day 10, this is how we're looking. So again, it remains hot across most parts of America, and with slack gradients, we can expect big showers and thunderstorms to be building up there. And that's how the upper air temperatures are looking. The heat wave is intensifying, if anything, as we go through towards day 10, the 12th of July. Very, very intense heat, beginning to progress more towards the Midwest as well. So these eastern states, not quite, I mean, it's very warm, hot in the east, but intense heat, really intense heat wave getting going through the west and also towards the Midwest as we get through towards day 10. Very, very intense heat wave coming up indeed. As we go beyond day 10, we've got a trough of low pressure coming in from Canada across these far northern parts of America. That will probably cool things down there in the far north and northeast and bring risk of heavy showers and thunderstorms, of course. But otherwise, again, most parts of states are looking really hot. There's the upper air temperatures, particularly hot across the western parts of America, but some of that heat does progress into the Midwest too, although around the Great Lakes and going up towards the northeast, and we've got the air coming in from Canada, so it is beginning to cool down a little bit through there. Moving towards a very extended range of the GFS, it starts getting a little bit more interesting down in the tropical Atlantic. So still a hot scene across most parts of Central America by the time you get through to the middle of the month, but the northeast is cooler. But look at this area of low pressure that's beginning to develop down in the Gulf of Mexico. So it's off the coast of Florida in the Gulf. That could be the start of a tropical storm, possibly even a hurricane. So how things look as we get through to Saturday the 18th of July. Definitely some sort of disturbance there off the Gulf Coast, moving onto this southern coast of America sometime around the middle part of July. It's a really long way off that, so it's seemingly unreliable time frame of the GFS, but definitely some sort of storm or tropical disturbance is getting going in the Gulf of Mexico sometime just after middle part of July. Otherwise, most parts of America looking really, really hot, especially so in these western and southwest states. But again, some of that heat is pumping northwards in towards the Midwest in particular. I think it's going to be a very hot couple of weeks to come across many parts of America in these next 2 weeks, I must say. And if anything, the heat wave will intensify around days 10 through to 14 probably. ECM looks like that, so again, very slack gradients tomorrow. Going to be very warm scene away from this northwestern corner, but there could be some big showers and maybe even some thunderstorms too. Moving through the Independence Day weekend, again, very hot across most parts of the states. There's the upper air temperature, so widely from west coast to east coast, they do look hot. The hottest temperatures are in the west and the southwest, but across these midwestern and eastern states, yeah, we've got the 20 Celsius ice firm there pushing through, so it is hot over on the eastern side of America as well. Into the early part of next week, stays hot really through most parts of the state. Slack gradients suggest heavy showers and thunderstorms coming through at times, but the upper air temperatures are telling us that it is going to be hot across all parts of America really, except in the far northwest near the Pacific coast. It will be cooler there, but otherwise it's a hot week to come next week. And if anything, yes, the ECM is also intensifying this heat wave as we go up towards day 10. Notice the ECM is also developing some sort of storm here in the Pacific. Doesn't look like it will impact America, but there is definitely some sort of tropical storms type system developing there, or hurricane developing in the Pacific Ocean. But the heat wave is the real story up to day 10, especially on the western side, intensely hot across this western side of America and pushing up towards the Canadian border as well. At the same time, though, something a little bit cooler is coming in towards the far northern part of America. It's far north around the Great Lakes, again, perhaps going over towards the northeastern coast. Just begin to pull some cooler air in from Canada. That will be associated with a trough of low pressure, of course, and the risk of heavy showers or thunderstorm, but generally it is a very warm or hot scene up to day 10 in many parts of America. CFSV2 is looking like this. It means a 500 millibar height sprinkled down into week periods. The first week period takes from the 2nd to the 8th of July. The coming week has the ridge in the northeast, trough of low pressure towards the Pacific coast of America, so a little bit cooler through there, but otherwise most parts of the states on the hot side of the jet stream drawing up the winds from south, so it is a hot scene to come, particularly through many northern and eastern parts of the states. This goes on into week 2. This is the 9th through to the 15th of July. Again, we've got this ridge in the east, in the northeast. That's going to draw up the heat across many parts of America from the south. Week 3 is the 16th to the 22nd of July. Just a little bit cooler in the northeast, perhaps, just drawing in some air from Canada in towards the northeast. This ridge is weakening through the Midwest as well, but probably even now still quite a hot scene through the Midwest and those central parts of America. And then week 4, just looking a little bit different in week 4. This is the 23rd to the 29th of July. A ridge vein setting up out towards the northwest with a trough of low pressure coming in from Canada Florida, perhaps into those northern and northeastern states. So the jet stream would start, that's too far southwards, the jet stream would start to dig southwards with this. The jet stream would start to do something a little bit like that, and that will start to turn it cooler in the north and in the northeast perhaps, but also turn it more unsettled too, and the heat will probably transition more towards the west and the northwest, if anything. Let's have a look at the temperature anomalies. So, temperature anomaly for week 1, 2nd to the 8th of July, looks cooler than average in the northwest. Of course, we're bringing in the air from the Pacific, so you expect that. But most parts of central, eastern, and particularly northeast America looking really, really hot in the week ahead. Proper heat wave conditions. Heat wave conditions into week 2 as well, the 9th to the 15th of July. Again, most parts of central and eastern America very substantially hotter than average. In the west, it is a little bit cooler. It shows California cooler than average, but of course there it's going to be still hot, even if the temperature anomaly is like a degree or 2 below average. In the northwest, it's cooler as well, but most of those midwestern and eastern states looking very, very hot. Week 3 is the 16th, 22nd of July. Again, it's hot across many parts of Midwest and into the east, beginning to warm up out towards the west as well. This is going to be a hot July, I think, through most parts of America. So a bit of a change for week 4. It's the 23rd, 29th of July. Then it's getting the hottest in the northwest. So where it has been coolest, it gets hottest in the northwest. And we begin to lose a heat wave across these eastern and midwestern states, possibly seeing a cool down coming along then later on towards the back end of the month. But before then, particularly the next couple of weeks, very hot conditions, heat wave conditions looking likely. Precipitation anomalies, CFS-V2, week 1, 2nd to 8th of July. Substantially drier than average across these central and eastern parts of America, nearer normal up towards the northwest. Week 2 looks like that. So near normal out in the west. Over on the east, it's quite dry, or over in the east, it's quite dry. The southern states quite dry as well. Turning a little bit thundery though, perhaps through the midwest and down to the southeast. Week 3, precipitation looks like this, so drier then through the Midwest in particular and over towards the eastern part of America. Notice beginning to go a little bit more south towards Florida and down into the Caribbean. And then week 4 is the 23rd to 29th of July. Dry in the southeast, wet in the northeast. So trough of low pressure, of course, is now starting to dig in from Canada, so there's a trough of low pressure setting up around here. Jet stream is beginning to push southwards, turning things cooler and more unsettled through the Midwest into eastern states. Probably a ridge through here, and we know there's a ridge up there as well. So from a jet stream perspective, doing something a little bit like that, perhaps. It looks like it's going to be a hot scene across many parts of America in the next couple of weeks. Definitely proper heat wave conditions, probably intensifying with the heat wave, if anything, as we go into days sort of 8, 9, 10 through to 12. We could be seeing signs of something a little bit cooler in the north and the northeast as we get through towards the second half of July, but that's a long way off, and before that I think it is going to be the heat that's the main thing, is the main storyline through many parts of America. Very, very hot to come in the next couple of weeks or so. We may start seeing things beginning to liven up in the tropics as well over the next week or two, so that will be something to keep an eye on as we reduce the dust and sand from Saharan Africa through the tropical Atlantic. We may then start to see things beginning to get going through the tropical Atlantic. That will be like the largest storyline to keep an eye on over the next few weeks, I think. If you enjoyed this week ahead forecast, or this 10 to 14 day forecast for the United States, then please give us a like on the video. Let us know in the comments what you think. Share the video as far and wide as you possibly can, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Next update for America will be released on Monday. If you're watching this in America, then please have a great Independence Day weekend, and yeah, we'll see you on Monday. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.